all of us at some way has to help the dawah to show that Islam is a worldview that brings justice, Islam brings mercy, and it's a balanced way of living. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the book of Allah who teaches us how to think. There's something in Islam, it's called the aims and objectives of the Sharia. Basically means that Allah and His Messenger is number one concern for all of us to protect our deen first, to protect Islam. This is number one. Number two, Allah and His Messenger, the deen of Islam, is concerned with protecting life. Number three, Allah and His Messenger are concerned with protecting your intellect. Number four is to protect your families, your lineage. And number five is to protect your wealth. Now, why is this important to me? Why do you care? Why do you care about this? Let me ask you a question. We had this one sister called me up and she said, my daughter, she's, unfortunately has left Islam. May Allah protect all of us and all our kids. So I said, how could this happen? So she said, well, we moved into a city that had no Muslims and all her friends were Christian. And eventually those Christians started to convey confusions about what Islam is, and eventually she left Islam. Now, when the mother decided to take this job, when we look at the maqasid of Sharia, the aims and objectives of the Sharia, what was she thinking about first? Was it about the deen? Was it about life? Was it about intellect? Was it about lineage, family? Or was it about wealth? Good, wealth. The why I gave you this example, you kind of understood now that in maqasid of Sharia, the tartib, the order is this way as well. So you have to not just say, well, I want to protect my wealth, not just say I want to protect my family, you have to know what the order of protection is. So you always have to protect your deen first, then your life, then your intellect, then your lineage, and then your wealth. Why is this important for the shabab? Why is it important for the youth? Is because sometimes you have a question. Like for example, you may have non-Muslim friends and they may say, wow, you don't have a girlfriend? You don't have a boyfriend, right? Now, why don't Muslims have a girlfriend and a boyfriend? Is it wrong because collectively we as human beings think it's wrong? Is it wrong because our parents told us it's wrong? Is it wrong that the society around us tells us it's wrong? Or is it wrong because Allah says it's wrong? Sometimes we as Muslims, we think things are wrong because we think it's wrong. When someone asks you as a Muslim, someone will ask you, well, why do you wear a hijab? Why do men in Islam have beard? Why do you fast 30 days a year? Why do you take Jummah Friday prayers as off from work? Or for you, maybe you're stopping school. They'll ask you, why do you pray 5 times a day? So in Islam, we're in submission, right? So we submit to Allah what Allah and His Messenger has said. Like these walls are white, right? These walls are white. Imagine if I was wearing yellow glasses and I was looking at this wall. What tint would I see? Imagine if I was wearing green glasses and I was looking at this wall. What tint will I see? Green. Good. So when you're speaking to someone about Islam and he doesn't even believe in God, he doesn't believe that God has sent us guidance. The reason why we get into arguments, brothers and sisters, because every one of us wears some type of glasses. Then how we see the world from those glasses. So where us Muslims, the reason why we do things what we do, because we believe in Allah and His Messenger, so our glasses are Islam. For them, their glasses are what? What my parents think, what the society thinks, or what my intellect thinks, or what I think, or I like this or I don't like this. So when someone says I like this or I don't like this, what are they using to know what is right and wrong? Their opinions. So where does opinions come from? Side. So do they come from Allah? Sometimes they could, but sometimes they don't, right? As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, don't you see the one who takes his own hawa as his own ilah? Does anybody know what ilah is? It means the deity that deserves to be worshipped. So sometimes someone thinks I'm right and you're wrong based on their intellect, and that could become their ilah. So what is worship in Islam? Is to know something the most, and to love something the most, and to obey something the most. So let me guys ask you a question. Who wrote the Quran? The Quran is Kalam Allah. You guys know what kalam is in Arabic? What is kalam? Yes. It's speech. So the Quran is not just the words of God. In Islam, we believe the Quran is kalam Allah. It's speech. It's verbatim speech of God. God has spoken. And these spoken words were sent to Angel Gabriel, were brought to the Prophet ﷺ, which were brought down to the companions who memorized it, learned it, and transmitted to their students, which taught it to those students until today. Do you know there's millions and millions of people that know the Quran cover to cover by heart? Do you know many of our huffaz sometimes get ijazas? Do you know what an ijaza is? So let's say if you go to university and you get a certificate that you graduated from this university. In that certificate you have a name, your teacher's name, and your teacher's teacher's name, and their teacher's teacher's name, and their teacher's teacher's name. In the same way in Islam we have something called an ijaza. So the person who's memorized Islamic sciences, let's say it's the science of Quran, he's learned this from his teacher, and his teacher, from his teacher, from his teacher, all the way back to the lips of the Prophet ﷺ. So you have an unbroken chain from now to the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ heard it from who? Sometimes from Angel Gabriel, or sometimes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So we have an unbroken chain, an oral traditional change that comes from Allah, yes, goes to the Prophet, to let's say Angel Gabriel, to the Prophet ﷺ, or sometimes directly from Allah, and then he taught it to the companions, which taught it to their student, which taught it to their students, which taught it to their students, and which came to you today.